5 forgotten Stoic principles that will transform your life. There are moments in life when you feel something is slipping through your fingers and you cannot explain why. You wake up, go through the motions, fulfill responsibilities, and yet a quiet emptiness keeps following you, as if some essential part of your strength has been misplaced. This is the quiet collapse of the inner world, the one you rarely talk about but always feel. And if you are honest, you know it has nothing to do with the outside noise. It is an internal fracture, a subtle distance between who you are and who you know you could become. That distance hurts more than any external obstacle. It drains focus, weakens discipline, and steals clarity. But here is the truth. You are not missing motivation, and you are not lacking potential. What you are missing are the forgotten principles that once shaped minds capable of carrying empires. Principles that sharpened perception, disciplined emotion, and created a level of self-command rare to see today. Over time, they were buried under distraction and convenience, lost beneath layers of noise, comfort, and the modern obsession with instant relief. Yet these principles remain alive, waiting for anyone who has the courage to reclaim them. They were never reserved for philosophers or emperors. They were designed for ordinary people facing ordinary chaos, people exactly like you. When you understand them, something shifts. Your reactions slow down, your mind becomes quieter, your focus sharpens. You begin to notice how much energy you were giving to problems that never deserved it. And then a realization emerges. You were not weak. You were simply untrained in the ancient discipline of inner strength. This video exists to guide you back to that discipline. Not with superficial advice or clichés you have heard countless times, but with ideas that confront you, challenge you, and elevate you. Ideas that were once used to forge unshakable men and women. Ideas that will force your inner world to stand up straight again. If you allow yourself to absorb these principles, you will not simply feel inspired, you will feel re-centered, recalibrated, restored to the version of yourself that you forgot you were capable of being. These are not theories, these are tools, and the moment you apply them, your life changes in a way that is impossible to ignore. We begin now with the first forgotten Stoic principle, one capable of dismantling the invisible barriers inside your mind and rebuilding the clarity you thought was lost. The discipline of perception, collapse. You move through life convinced you are seeing reality clearly, yet most of what you call truth is nothing more than an old interpretation repeating itself inside your mind. You think you are responding to the world, but in truth, you are responding to memories, fears, assumptions, and invisible narratives you never questioned. This first forgotten Stoic principle forces you to confront a difficult idea. Your suffering is not born from events, but from the meaning you attach to them. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the mind has the power to strip away the legend, to remove the unnecessary story tangled around each moment. What he meant is that perception is not passive. It is an act of constant construction, and if you do not take command of that construction, your mind becomes a prisoner of interpretations created long before you had the wisdom to evaluate them. The discipline of perception collapse requires courage, because it demands that you dismantle the way you explain your own life to yourself. You stop saying, "This always happens to me, I can't handle this," or "people are against me." Not because you want to be positive, but because you finally understand these sentences are not facts. They are habits. Every time you repeat them, you reinforce a mental structure that traps you in predictable reactions. You begin to behave according to the limitations you believe in, not according to your actual potential. This principle asks you to pause in the exact moment your emotions begin to rise, and instead of obeying the narrative that appears, you challenge it, you dissect it, you remove the exaggeration, the fear, the memory of past wounds. You strip the event down to its bare form and deal only with what is truly in front of you. Perception collapse is the shift from emotional storytelling to clear observation. It is the moment when your mind stops dramatizing and starts perceiving. When you look at a problem without adding a moral judgment, a prediction of disaster, or a label about what it says about you, the problem loses the power to destabilize you. It remains a problem, but not a catastrophe. It becomes a task, not a threat. The Stoics knew that clarity was the highest form of strength. If you can see clearly, you can act correctly. If you can act correctly, you can shape your fate. Without clarity, every action becomes a reaction, and every reaction becomes a chain you carry into the next decision. This principle does not ask you to suppress emotion. It asks you to separate emotion from interpretation. Anger, fear, sadness, and frustration are natural. The danger appears when you allow them to dictate how you view the world. The moment you merge emotion with interpretation, you lose the ability to see what is truly happening. But when you pause and examine the meaning you assign to the situation, you take your power back. You regain authorship of your internal narrative. You return yourself to reality instead of the distorted version created by an overwhelmed mind. When you practice perception collapse, you begin to notice how often your mind lies to you. It tells you that someone's silence means rejection, that a delay means failure, that a challenge means you are incompetent. These conclusions feel real only because they were repeated, not because they were true. And once you see the mechanism, once you understand that your mind is constructing this meaning on autopilot, you can interrupt the cycle. You can choose a new interpretation, one rooted in clarity instead of insecurity. This is where inner strength begins, not in controlling the world, but in controlling the lens through which you interpret it. At its core, perception collapse is a return to truth. It is the willingness to confront reality without the comfort of illusions. It is a form of mental purification that removes the noise, exaggeration, and emotional fog that once dominated your decisions. And as you practice it, you discover something surprising. Most of your suffering dissolves the moment the story dissolves. What remains is a simpler, more manageable version of life, one you are fully capable of facing. When the interpretation collapses, the problem becomes clear. When the problem is clear, action becomes possible. And where action is possible, transformation begins. The ancient art of voluntary discomfort of the mind. There is a weakness that grows silently inside people who never confront themselves. It appears in the small moments when you avoid a difficult conversation, postpone a decision, or allow your emotions to drag you into reactions you later regret. This weakness is not obvious. It hides behind convenience, comfort, and the illusion that easy choices protect your peace. But the Stoics understood that the mind decays when it is never challenged. They practice something profound, something rarely discussed. The deliberate experience of mental discomfort, not to punish themselves, but to strengthen judgment, discipline, and emotional resistance. This forgotten principle is not about physical hardship or dramatic rituals. It's about facing the invisible impulses inside you that quietly sabotage your life. Voluntary discomfort of the mind begins with one simple but uncomfortable truth. You are controlled by urges you do not recognize. The urge to defend your pride, the urge to react instantly, the urge to escape silence with distraction, the urge to avoid uncertainty by clinging to old habits, even if those habits hurt you. Every time you obey these urges without question, you weaken the part of you that should be in command. But when you resist them, even for a few seconds, something extraordinary happens. You feel the presence of your own agency again. You feel that you can choose differently, that you can interrupt the automatic pattern and redirect your path. The Stoics used mental discomfort to train themselves in this exact skill. They would intentionally hold a thought without reacting to it. They would sit with an uncomfortable emotion until it lost its power. They practiced the discipline of letting an internal urge rise and fall without obeying it. This was not meditation in the modern soft sense. It was emotional training, a test of inner sovereignty, a reminder that the mind must be governed, not indulged. This is where emotional fasting enters as a powerful practice. Emotional fasting is the act of going a period of time each day without responding to impulses. 1 hour without explaining yourself. 1 hour without defending your image. 1 hour without reacting to provocation, irritation, or insecurity. 1 hour where you allow the emotion to exist inside you without turning it into action. When you do this, you discover that most emotions lose their force when they are not fed by reaction. They rise, they peak, and then they dissolve. And as they dissolve, you realize that your mind had been training you to believe that reaction was the only option. But now you see clearly that reaction is a choice, not a compulsion. Mental, voluntary discomfort also strengthens your tolerance for uncertainty. You stop needing every answer immediately. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop making decisions based on fear. You learn to remain still in moments of confusion without rushing to escape the feeling. This stability is rare in the modern world, where every discomfort becomes a reason to escape into distraction. But the Stoics saw discomfort as a doorway, a test, an invitation to expand the boundaries of your inner strength. When you apply this principle, you begin to notice how much of your life is shaped by avoidance. You avoid silence because it forces you to hear your own thoughts. You avoid confrontation because it exposes your weaknesses. You avoid change because it threatens your identity. But avoidance is the soil where fear grows. Voluntary discomfort uproots that fear. It teaches you that you can survive the emotions you were running from, that you can withstand the pressure you thought would break you. And once you understand this, you become harder to intimidate, manipulate, or destabilize. This principle is a path toward mental independence. It returns you to a state where you do not need external reassurance to stand firm, where your emotions no longer pull you in every direction, where you experience discomfort not as a threat, but as a signal that growth is taking place. The more you practice this discipline, the less control impulses have over you. You become capable of choosing patience instead of rushing, clarity instead of confusion, restraint instead of explosion. You develop the ability to respond from your values rather than your fears. Voluntary mental discomfort is a silent revolution that begins inside you. It is the moment when you decide that endurance matters more than ease, that strength matters more than comfort, that self-command matters more than temporary relief. And gradually, the person you were begins to fade, replaced by someone steadier, calmer, and infinitely more powerful. This is the path the Stoics walked. It is the path you are now capable of choosing. The severance technique, cutting invisible attachments. There are moments when you feel trapped without understanding why, moments when nothing external is holding you back, yet something inside resists every attempt to move forward. This invisible resistance comes from attachments you never realized you formed, not attachments to objects or people in the obvious sense, but attachments to identities, labels, expectations, and stories you built about yourself over years of survival. The Stoics knew that true freedom did not come from owning little or needing nothing. It came from the ability to detach from the false meanings you stitched into your life. This forgotten principle, the severance technique, requires you to separate yourself from the invisible narratives that dictate your reactions, your fears, and your decisions. An attachment forms when you give something the power to define you. You convince yourself that you are valuable only if certain people approve of you. You believe you are safe only when things remain predictable. You feel important only when your role is recognized. These attachments do not stay on the surface. They dig into your identity, shaping the person you believe you must be. Once they settle, they begin to govern your choices. You stay silent when you should speak, because the attachment to harmony makes conflict feel like failure. You stay in situations that drain you, because the attachment to stability makes change feel like danger. You pretend to be someone else, because the attachment to validation makes authenticity feel like a threat. And with every decision shaped by attachment, your sense of self becomes weaker. The severance technique confronts this directly. It begins by exposing the truth that your suffering is often tied to what you refuse to let go. Not the thing itself, but the identity bound to it. When a relationship ends, the pain comes not only from the loss of the person, but from the collapse of the version of yourself that existed in that connection. When a job stops fulfilling you, the discomfort comes from losing the identity you built around your competence, not from the task itself. When someone disrespects you, the anger comes from the attachment to being perceived a certain way. You are not reacting to the event. You are reacting to the threat against the identity you are clinging to. The technique demands that you ask a difficult but liberating question. What part of me is holding on to this? When you identify the attachment, the grip begins to loosen. The moment you see that you are protecting an identity rather than protecting your peace, the illusion loses strength. You realize that many of your fears were built on the foundation of trying to preserve an image you never needed. And without that image, you see the world with sharper clarity. The Stoics practice severance by constantly reminding themselves that nothing external belonged to them in a permanent way. They treated every possession, title, relationship, and circumstance as something borrowed, not owned. This was not emotional coldness, it was emotional freedom. It allowed them to engage deeply without clinging, to love without fear, to act without hesitation, to let go without breaking. They understood that detachment did not make life empty, it made life stable. When you apply this principle, you start noticing how many unnecessary weights you have been carrying. You recognize how often you confuse familiarity with identity, how often you protect beliefs that no longer serve you, and how many parts of your personality were built to impress people who barely remember your name. You begin to release the idea that you must always be right, always be accepted, always be comfortable, always be admired. You stop defining yourself by your past, your mistakes, your successes, your failures, or the expectations of others. You recover something far more important, the ability to choose who you will be next. The more you practice the severance technique, the more your emotional landscape changes. Problems lose their heaviness because they no longer threaten your identity. Disappointment becomes manageable because your worth is not tied to outcomes. Rejection loses its sting because you no longer depend on validation to feel grounded. Uncertainty becomes less frightening because you are no longer attached to the illusion of control. You move through life with less fear and more presence. You engage with people and experiences without clinging to them for stability. You learn to hold everything lightly, including yourself. When invisible attachments fall away, the self you meet underneath is steadier, wiser, and infinitely more capable of facing life without collapsing under its weight. You discover that freedom was never about escaping responsibility or abandoning connection. It was about reclaiming ownership of your identity. And once that happens, you begin to walk through the world with the quiet strength the Stoics considered the highest form of power. The moment-to-moment sovereignty rule. There is a silent truth about life that most people never realize until years have already passed. You do not lose control of your life in a single dramatic moment. You lose it in tiny, almost invisible decisions that accumulate until your days become shaped by impulses instead of intention. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw every moment as a crossroads, every thought as a negotiation, every reaction as a declaration of who you are becoming. This forgotten principle, the moment-to-moment sovereignty rule, teaches that personal freedom is not something you achieve once. It is something you practice constantly, in the smallest slices of existence, long before the world ever sees the results. Sovereignty begins the moment you stop living on mental autopilot. Most people believe they are making choices, but they are only following pre-programmed patterns built by emotion, habit, or fear. You check your phone before your mind even wakes. You defend yourself before you understand the situation. You get irritated before you notice the thought that created the irritation. These unconscious responses create a life you never intentionally chose. Epictetus warned that the greatest danger is not external adversity, but internal submission to impulses disguised as decisions. When you obey a reaction without examining it, you hand over your sovereignty. You give control of your life to the moment instead of governing the moment. The moment-to-moment sovereignty rule is the discipline of inserting awareness between stimulus and action. It is the practice of asking yourself, who do I want to be in the next 10 seconds? This question disrupts automatic behavior and forces the mind into a state of deliberate presence. It brings the weight of identity into every decision, reminding you that your character is formed not by what you claim to believe, but by what you choose repeatedly. 1,000 fragments of choice shape your destiny long before a single major decision defines your path. This rule also demands that you recognize your own influence over emotional storms. You may not choose your first feeling, but you always choose your second. Anger may appear uninvited, but escalation is optional. Fear may rise from instinct, but surrender is voluntary. Doubt may whisper, but paralysis is a decision. Sovereignty is not about eliminating emotion. It is about maintaining authority over your response. Marcus Aurelius described this power as the ability to stand upright, not kept upright, meaning that your stability should come from internal command, not external conditions. When you practice this principle, you begin to notice how often you abandon yourself in small choices. You eat something you did not plan to eat. You speak words you wish you could take back. You procrastinate even though you know the cost. You scroll endlessly because the mind seeks the easiest path. These moments seem harmless, but each one chips away at your internal authority. The world does not break you. These unconscious fragments erode you from the inside. But when you reclaim sovereignty in the micro moments, the entire structure of your life begins to change. You become someone who pauses before reacting, someone who speaks only after understanding, someone who acts with intention instead of impulse. You develop a growing sense of self-command that strengthens with each practiced moment. The world begins to feel less chaotic because your mind is no longer tossed around by every emotional wave. You experience the rare stability that comes from knowing you can trust yourself to act with clarity, even when circumstances are uncertain. This principle also reshapes your relationship with time. You stop waiting for the perfect day, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect version of yourself. You understand that transformation happens now, in the next breath, in the next decision, in the next internal shift. There is no distant future where you suddenly become disciplined. Discipline is built one moment at a time. There is no distant future where you finally feel strong. Strength is created in the seconds where you resist collapsing. There is no distant future where you regain your life. You reclaim it in every small act of sovereignty, repeated until it becomes the way you move through the world. Moment-to-moment sovereignty is the art of designing your life from the inside outward. It is the understanding that you are never powerless as long as one thought, one breath, one decision remains within your control. When you live this way, external chaos loses its ability to shape your internal world. You become the reference point for your own stability. And gradually, the distance between who you are and who you want to be begins to close. Not through dramatic declarations, but through quietly mastering each moment until mastery becomes your nature. The inner treaty, making a pact with who you will become. There is a version of you that has been waiting for years. A version that is stronger, calmer, clearer, and far more capable than the one you allow yourself to be. You feel glimpses of this version every time you imagine a better life. Every time you promise yourself that you will change. Every time you sense that you are meant for more than the habits and fears that currently shape your days. Yet this future self never fully arrives because your intentions never solidify into a pact. They remain wishes, hopes, and brief surges of motivation that disappear the moment discomfort appears. The Stoics understood that no transformation happens without a personal treaty, a silent agreement between who you are now and who you are committed to becoming. This forgotten principle is what gave them consistency. It is what allowed them to live with strength even when life pressed heavily on their shoulders. The inner treaty begins with honesty. You confront the reality that your life is shaped more by broken agreements with yourself than by external limitations. Every time you say you will wake earlier and you do not, you weaken your trust in your own word. Every time you promise to remain calm yet react impulsively, you fracture the integrity you are trying to build. Every time you swear you will stop postponing your goals, yet repeat the same cycle tomorrow, you erode the foundation of your identity. These breaches of commitment accumulate silently. They create a quiet self-betrayal that you carry into every challenge. You begin to doubt yourself, not because you lack ability, but because you failed to become someone whose word carries weight. The inner treaty is the moment when you take yourself seriously again, when you decide your promises are no longer suggestions, when you understand that personal growth is not an emotional experience, but a contract that must be honored. This contract is not written with dramatic vows or motivational declarations. It is written in the smallest daily actions that align with the future you want. It is created when you act according to who you intend to become, even when your current self resists. The Stoics practice this by living each day as if their future self stood beside them, watching, evaluating, learning from every choice. This perspective turns every moment into an opportunity to strengthen the treaty. A powerful shift happens when you imagine your future self as someone real, someone present, someone depending on your decisions today. You begin to feel responsible for the person you are becoming. You stop making choices that offer comfort in the present at the cost of suffering in the future. You begin choosing long-term strength over short-term relief. This responsibility creates a new sense of purpose. You no longer act only for the person you are now. You act for the person you must eventually face. The treaty also changes your relationship with failure. Instead of viewing failure as a reason to quit, you treat it as evidence that something within the contract needs adjustment. You no longer collapse when you fall short. You evaluate, you refine, you restart, you continue. The Stoics did not demand perfection, they demanded persistence. They knew that the only true failure was breaking the treaty by giving up on the future self entirely. Anything else was part of the process. When you live according to the inner treaty, your identity begins to shift. You no longer describe yourself by your past patterns. You describe yourself by your present commitments. You no longer fear change because your direction is clear. You no longer chase motivation because the treaty replaces emotional fluctuation with structural stability. You no longer negotiate your values when life becomes difficult because the treaty has already defined the path you follow. You become someone whose life is governed by intention rather than impulse, by clarity rather than confusion, by self-command rather than emotional turbulence. This principle transforms your internal world. You start waking with a sense of purpose instead of pressure. You face challenges with a sense of steadiness instead of panic. You move through the day with the awareness that your actions carry weight far beyond the moment. And slowly, a new confidence emerges. Not a superficial confidence based on success or recognition, but the deep, quiet confidence of someone who trusts themselves, someone who honors their word, someone who keeps the treaty. There is a profound strength in knowing that your future self is no longer a distant dream, but a partner walking beside you, shaped by your choices, built through your consistency, strengthened by your discipline. When this partnership becomes the core of your life, transformation is no longer unpredictable, it becomes inevitable. The return to yourself. Every journey toward inner strength begins quietly, not with sudden breakthroughs or dramatic revelations, but with a simple recognition that your life is shaped from the inside outward. The forgotten Stoic principles you have now rediscovered are not fragments of ancient philosophy. They are mirrors, each one revealing a part of yourself that has been waiting for attention. As you reflect on these ideas, something inside you begins to shift. You start to see the architecture of your mind with clarity, noticing the habits that weaken you, the interpretations that distort your reality, the attachments that quietly imprison you, and the impulses that try to rule your days. This awareness is not a burden. It is the first sign of freedom. The discipline of collapsing perception shows you that most problems shrink when stripped of the stories you attach to them. The art of voluntary mental discomfort teaches you that you are stronger than the emotions that once dominated you. The severance technique reminds you that identity is fluid, not fixed, and that you can release the parts of yourself that no longer serve your growth. The moment-to-moment sovereignty rule reveals that your life is sculpted in seconds, not in milestones. And the inner treaty anchors all of these principles into a living commitment, turning intention into structure, desire into discipline, and hope into transformation. Now that you understand these principles, the question becomes, what will you do with them? Knowledge without action changes nothing. Inspiration without discipline fades in hours. Strength without practice dissolves at the first challenge. The Stoics did not seek admiration, they sought mastery. They lived as if every moment carried the weight of who they were becoming, and that is now your task as well. Not to change your entire life in a day, but to change the next moment deliberately, to choose clarity over confusion, discipline over impulse, presence over autopilot, identity over comfort, growth over stagnation. You do not need to be perfect to apply these principles. You only need to be willing to confront yourself honestly, willing to rewrite the patterns that hold you back, willing to practice strength when ease is available, willing to rise one decision at a time. If you do this, a remarkable transformation begins. Your thoughts become cleaner, your reactions become steadier, your choices become intentional, your inner world becomes a place you can rely on instead of a battlefield you must survive. And the distance between the person you are and the person you want to be starts to close with every step you take. There is a version of you that is not overwhelmed, not lost, not scattered, not ruled by fear or impatience, a version that thinks with clarity, acts with purpose, and stands with quiet self-respect. That version is not mythical. It is not far away. It is already forming inside you each time you reclaim a moment, each time you interrupt an impulse, each time you choose discipline instead of distraction. You are not becoming someone new. You are returning to someone you were always capable of being. Carry these principles with you as tools, not theories. Let them guide your decisions, shape your presence, and strengthen your mind. If you do, the transformation you seek will not depend on motivation or luck. It will come from the only place where true power exists, your inner world, governed by your own hand, moment by moment, choice by choice, day after day. Now breathe, center yourself, and step forward with the quiet strength that the Stoics considered the highest form of victory. You have begun the return to yourself, and the path ahead is yours to command. If this message awakens something inside you, then this is your moment to act. Do not let these principles fade into the background of your day. Take a step that aligns with the person you are becoming. Subscribe to the channel so you don't lose the teachings that will continue strengthening your mind. Leave your like to help this message reach others who need it as much as you did. And share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice may guide someone who is walking the same path. Your journey toward clarity, discipline, and inner power continues here. Take the next step. The work starts now.